Om Brahmanandam Paramasukadam Kevalam Jnanamurtim Dvandvatitam Ganganasadrisham Tattvamasyadilaksham Ekam Nityam Vimalamachalam Sarvadi Sakshibhutam Bhavatitam Trigunarahitam Sadgurum Tam Namami.
Dear Seeker of Truth, welcome. This work that we are going to talk about is one of the most sacred dialogues because it happens between two enlightened beings. One is Ashtavakra, the other is King Janaka, which was Ashtavakra's disciple. So in it you will have a glimpse of the instruction of an enlightened being so that you can achieve liberation, and also the vision of how a liberated being stands, acts, what is his experience. So pay attention to these teachings, fill your heart with surrender, devotion, sacredness, because that is the way to enjoy it the most. May it blossom in your heart, may you also find liberation. Moving on, chapter 1st, verse 13 of Ashtavakra Samhita. Having given up external and internal self-modifications and the illusion of I am the reflected self, meditate on the Atman as immutable consciousness and non-dual. So having given up external and internal self-modifications. What is this self-modifications? Is the mistaken confusion of the self as something concrete, something changeable, something tangible. So external modifications from the internal part, this intimate space of perception, to this external part, what is beyond this internal space of perception, and that is the body. So I am this body, and this body is this and that, and this body is in this world. All these are external modifications of the self. So internal modifications of the self is the identification with moods, thoughts, and other such modifications. And modifications because it is stillness, purity, totality. So whatever is apart from this is a modification. So stillness, for example, is the absence of modifications. Stillness / silence, absence of modifications. So having given up these external and internal self-modifications, and that means having detached oneself from these perceptions, these arising perceptions. So after this, meditate on the Atman as immutable consciousness and non-dual. So after a time, as meditation evolves, so being with that, in this case, meditating on the nature of the Atman. So having that in mind and remaining with that perception, meditation needs to evolve to move beyond a a specific technique of meditation. It helps in the beginning, in a big part of the meditation, of the spiritual path, but then it needs to evolve as to remain in that meditative mood. A meditative mood which is complete emptiness, continued, uninterrupted emptiness, and even better, exalted emptiness, which is as you enter this meditative mood, this higher vibration, and you remain in that emptiness, that exalted emptiness. There's no more specific technique. It's just remaining in that level, in that exalted state. And that brings about dissolution. Meditation is not, it is a tool for self-realization because it enables for the illusions to dissolve. It's not going to transform you into the self. It erases the non-self. My child, you have long been caught in the nose of body consciousness. Sever it with the sword of knowledge, I am consciousness, and be happy. So, long means as long as you can remember it. So it is saying that you have been caught in the noose of body consciousness, and you have to sever it with the sword of I am consciousness. These affirmations, like I've been explaining, and I will continue to do so, they are not, remember this is very important. We are not talking about a specific practice for a specific moment. At this level of teaching, life is the practice. There's not your spiritual practice and your family life and your working life and your social life with your friends. There's just spiritual practice. And this I am consciousness in opposition to I am the body, I am the mind, I am all of these things. It is about an attitude towards everything which is perceived by the senses and the mind. It's not just in a selected, in a selected frame of your life. There's nothing else here. There's just only duty is liberation at this level. Nothing else. Survival is for the body. Prosperity is for the body. Relationships are for the body. So at this level, this kind of teaching, it is an attitude, because your senses are telling you that you are the body in different ways, and you have to stand with the conviction, I am consciousness, and your actions need to reflect that. Better yet, the absence of actions, because it is the actions that have it implied in themselves that you are the body. Because if a concerning comes for the body and you are responding to that, you are affirming, I am the body, despite how many times you have repeated in your mind that you're not the body. So it is an attitude towards your available time of perception. And sever it with the sword of knowledge, I am consciousness. So worry comes, oh, you have to do this. No, I don't, I am consciousness. Let's see what happens. And you're not investing in a way that you're being pulled. First it's just a suggestion, then it is being pushed, and then it increases, it being bullied to invest. And as you stand firm, this is using the sword of consciousness. And be happy. This means and realize who you are, and your nature is happiness. It's not about psychological happiness, emotional happiness. It's by far beyond of that. So happiness is another word for self, but at the individual level, we see happiness as a state. I'm smiling, so I'm happy. It's not about that. Happiness, self, fullness, totality, truth, it is synonymous. All these things are synonymous. So this next verse is a verse that causes a lot of confusion. You are unattached, actionless, self-effulgent, and without any blemish. This is your real nature. This indeed is your bondage that you practice meditation. So at this level of advanced teachings, there's always teachings that come to break that which has been crystallized. And in the beginning of these Advaitic teachings, a lot is talked about meditation. We talked this 2 verses that says meditate in Brahman on those characteristics, non-dual characteristics. Now it says that this is your problem, your only bondage, that you practice meditation. Prior to that, there was this verse that said, you are the seer of all and really ever free. Verily, this is alone is your bondage. So these extreme affirmations, they come in a sense to break your beliefs. So if a beginner listens to this, what does he say? Oh, I'm practicing meditation, so I'm affirming duality by this practice, so I shouldn't do this. But this beginner has not ceased all of his attachments, all of his desires, has not reached this state of complete absolute stillness 24/7, not just in that moment that he sits for meditation. He's still assailed by attachments, desires, and etc. And this is what meditation is for. It's not for you to realize the self, but to halt illusion, to dissolve illusion. So by hearing this, and he will use here more sentence like this in different types of situations, but it all means the same. So, for example, practice meditation as a formal sitting, for example, versus being in that state of meditation continuously, in that exalted state. So in that exalted state, there is no more practice of meditation. There's maintenance of that, there's remaining on that exalted state. And that is not possible for the one who is assailed by desires, attachments, fears, dependencies, fragilities, and so on. So many other impurities. So this meditation has to continue until you reach that level where you remain in that exalted state. Because in the biggest part of your spiritual path, you will need that meditation. But eventually you will reach a moment that there is no more practice of meditation. There's just meditation, in the sense that you don't have a specific technique to reach that exalted state. The exalted state is present continuously, and you remain in it, in complete abstraction of everything else. So at this level, there's no practice, there's just being in that exalted state, being that exalted state. And it is in this that the dissolution accelerates. So, but what is being made reference here is those that go for meditation, and this is quite common, and they have this idea that meditation, it's like a portal that they need to cross. They try to cross it. The mind gets one pointed into that direction. And this really maintains that duality. But even better than this is to understand that the spiritual quest is a living process, and guidance will have to come prior to this, and guidance really, or the master or direct guidance will tell you, halt this, but understand. If there are attachments, if there's dependencies, if there is desires, meditation is a must. And I hear this many times from, let's call it students, curious, not really seekers of truth yet, but who knows, that are studying these Advaitic teachings, not the real Advaitic teachings like these ones, because this work is advanced work. The prior ones are very important because they are the basis. But they are studying this, but then they say, oh, but we are in this world, and so we must do something with it. So what, or else what's the point? So this is complete delusion. Complete delusion. And these are the ones who have more difficulty in meditation. And they say that meditation increases duality, so they do not practice it. But they practice everything else, going after desires, sense pleasures, and all of these things. So this is twisting and adapting things to a personal need. Just to give an example, what this means, this indeed is your bondage, that you practice meditation is still a practice, is not a natural state, but it has to continue as a practice until it becomes the natural state. This is important because it reaches a point that it is continuum. First, it begins as you're going to meditation, you're starting your meditation, it's very quick to enter that meditative mood. It's very quick. Then it will be maintained continuously. As it is maintained continuously, there's nothing to practice. Just maintaining yourself in that exalted state. But here was a reference to the concrete practice where the mind gets one-pointed, and there's the belief that the mind brings, that the meditation is for self-realization, that it makes you cross that portal and you realize yourself. You pervade this universe, and this universe exists in you. How big you are. You are really pure consciousness by nature. Don't be small-minded. So what this means? You are the all in all. You are greatness itself. Don't be small-minded. And this means acting according to the perception that I'm the body and the mind. And looking out these small details and worries and fears and desires of this individual character. When you are greatness itself, when you are wholeness, when you are God, when you are everything. So don't be small-minded, worried about little things, about the little life of that little body. Again, the attitude, it is the attitude, the way that you are looking at all perceptions that arise in that space of perception. You are unconditioned, immutable, formless, of cool disposition, of unfathomable intelligence, and unperturbed. Desire consciousness alone. So all these adjectives, they come to counter normal beliefs that rise in your perception and you tend to embrace as yours, as real. So all these are characteristics associated with the self. They don't define the self, but they give you perspective of what is and what isn't. You are unconditioned. Nothing can condition you. You are wholeness. You are everything. Immutable. No changes exist in you. Nothing exists beyond you. Nothing can affect you. Formless. Not only formless, but totality. But you have no form. You're the substratum of all apparent forms. Of cool disposition. Cool disposition is very good. Of unfathomable intelligence. Of course, you are all intelligence. And unperturbed. Nothing can perturb you. Nothing and no one, because no one exists, nothing else exists. Desire consciousness alone. So instead of desiring sense objects and all these things that are conditioned to the individual, desire consciousness alone. And understand, it is saying desire consciousness alone. So it is, the master is hinting at different levels of the seeker. So in this case, a seeker that is still facing desires for sense pleasures and all of this is saying, look, this has nothing to do with you. And it says, oh, meditation is making my perception of duality continue. What about going after sense pleasures, desiring sense objects, safety, acceptance, and all of these things? This is also more than meditation, because this increases the level of identification with duality. Meditation decreases this identification, purifies the mind so it can become more similar, more in the nature, more aligned with the nature of the self. Desire consciousness alone. Put aside all desires and desire consciousness alone. So these verses, they are very good and they should be put in perspective in the middle of the other verses, not just removing one verse and using it like the others haven't existed, like it wasn't in a conversation, or in this case, in a set of teachings. Know that which has form to be unreal and the formless to be permanent. Through this spiritual instruction, you will escape the possibility of rebirth. I will continue this in the next one.
Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.